So I watched the new Disney Plus original movie, Home Sweet Home Alone, and wouldn't you know, it was about as bad as every other nostalgia-baiting rebootquel. Actually, that's a lie. It was worse. Now this isn't the first time Home Alone has gotten a terrible sequel, cashing in on the success of the original. This trend goes all the way back with the second movie, Lost in New York, one of the most blatant examples of sequelitis in any movie ever. But the major difference between that and this new movie is that at least that movie had the same people involved, the same main characters, the same writer, the same director, the same composer. The elements that were present in the first movie are still present here. It's also got some great things not seen in the first one. The New York setting delivers so many memorable and hilarious setups, Tim Curry is excellent, and by God, who could forget that moment Marv gets electrocuted and turns into a skeleton. It's by no means a good sequel, but it's a memorable one. The same can't be said for 3, 4, and 5. Oh yeah, there were 3 more of these. And to make a long review short, all 3 of them were pretty bad and forgotten to time. So then that leads us to, that's right, Home Alone 6. And how is Home Alone 6? Is it as bad as the other terrible sequels? No, it's actually worse. Yes, this movie is worse than the Raja Gosnell film about terrorists trying to steal back a microchip, the one with French Stewart, and the one where the main kid is a gamer who kicks Malcolm McDowell's ass. All 3 of these films are leagues above this one. But for the sake of simplifying my arguments, I'm just going to compare this one to the original. So in this movie, the main kid is Max, and he's left home alone. What a shocker. The movie tries to show us that he's the black sheep of the family, but it doesn't do anything that spectacular with it. He's just shown walking around the house and no one pays attention to him. See, in the original, Kevin feels alone while still surrounded by his family. No one respects him, and you feel his frustration as the youngest. His relationship with his mother is clearly defined. We get that moment when he wishes to be home alone in front of her, making her reaction later on all the more impactful. This movie doesn't have that. The family doesn't even really feel like a family. They all just feel like a bunch of random children and cameos running around a rich person's house. And that's because this movie isn't actually about Max being left home alone. It's actually about Ellie Kemper and that guy from the Tom and Jerry movie. That's right, the robbers are the main characters. Isn't that what you want to see in a Home Alone movie? So this couple is trying to sell their house because they're not doing so well financially, and Max and his mom go to their open house so Max can use the bathroom, and for no reason at all, he strikes up a conversation with the husband, Jeff. That leads to them getting into a kerfuffle or whatever, and he leaves. But then later on, Jeff finds out that he owns a rare doll that could help pay for their financial troubles, but then he finds out that Max stole the doll. Actually, the twist is that he didn't steal the doll, but who cares? The story is so dumb and convoluted. Luckily, he and his mom said their full names aloud to each other, and Jeff is able to find where he lives. So basically, the driving force of this movie is these 2 morons trying to get their doll back from this psychotic child. This whole movie is just one gigantic misunderstanding, and it's about as funny as it sounds, in that it's the opposite of comedy. This movie is genuinely unpleasant to sit through. You don't like the couple because they're making the absolute worst decisions in trying to get their doll back. But you also don't want to root for Max because he's a psychotic and bratty kid who takes pleasure in trying to murder these people. And you're also not rooting for his mother to get back to see him because she seems like a terrible person who doesn't actually care for her son. Remember how devastated Catherine O'Hara was in the first 2 movies? Remember the lengths she took to get back to Kevin and how satisfying it was to see them reunited? Yeah. That tension and satisfaction is nowhere in this movie. You don't care about the mother and son seeing each other again. She treats it as more of an inconvenience rather than a serious emergency. We don't even see her freak out in any comedic way. It cuts to the middle of the conversation when she finds out about it, so there's no real comedy. Nothing about it is funny. And speaking of not funny, yeah, the slapstick is exactly that. Remember in the first movie when Harry and Marv are both hilariously incompetent and a legit threat? Yeah, the movie is clever in making them bumbling idiots while simultaneously keeping the climax tense. Harry and Marv are actual crooks, so seeing them get their comeuppance is satisfying, and when they almost catch Kevin at several points, it's actually exciting. It's a perfect balance that I'm still impressed the movie was able to pull off. This movie doesn't do that. Ellie Kemper and Jeff are just gigantic morons, and because you know they actually aren't after Max, seeing them almost die on several occasions just isn't funny. It's funny in Home Alone because we know Harry and Marv mean to hurt Kevin. These guys don't want to hurt Max, so seeing him torture them is kinda fucked up. But like, fucked up in principle. I'm not actually saying I actually feel bad for these people, because again, they're both insanely stupid. But then they talk it out and find out it was all just a huge misunderstanding and everything just ends up working out in the end, with literally everybody should be arrested and put away for an eternity. I would not want to live in a world where people like this can walk the streets like any normal person. Please lock them away forever. So yeah, the story makes no sense. Is that really what makes this the worst Home Alone though? Well, not entirely. Like, yeah, this is easily the worst story in a Home Alone movie, which is saying a lot. But to me, I also consider this the worst because of the references. This one is easily the most reference heavy towards the first two, despite only having one character returning. Oh yeah, they bring back a character from the first movie, and it's the exact one you think it is. That's right, it's Buzz! Remember the older brother character? Yep, he's a cop now. He doesn't do anything that important, he didn't have to be in the movie, but he's here only to make us diehard Home Alone fans coom from seeing our favorite characters from that thing we like. Except, it's Buzz? Nobody fucking cares. Like, yeah, I think Buzz is a funny character and I laugh at everything he says, but that doesn't mean you can introduce him like he's some Marvel character and expect me to swoon like some miserable comic book geek. Not every movie can be Marvel, Disney. You don't have to treat every movie like some reference orgy. But that's not even the worst thing this movie does. The worst is easily their attempt at meta jokes. So at one point the characters are watching a weird remake of Angels with Filthy Souls, the fake movie from the first one, and of course, one of the characters in an epic attempt at breaking the fourth wall says that reboots are not as good as the original. Okay, one. Second, this joke doesn't make any sense. It's a sci-fi movie, but with the same exact dialogue as the original noir? I don't even really get it. Is it a critique on remakes not understanding what made the original so good, and that's why it looks nothing like the original fake movie? But if that's the case, why does the rest of this movie act like an embarrassing retread that doesn't understand what made the original Home Alone so good? It's like that Family Guy joke about BoJack Horseman.
Normal words, but a horse guy.
It's clear the writers have no idea what they're making fun of, and in turn, you're left more confused than offended. But either way, it's still insanely stupid and just makes me hate this movie even more. There's genuinely nothing good about this film. It's actually one of the worst I've seen all year. And trust me, I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot, of bad movies from this year. It's just insulting that anyone making this thought they were making something good. Or maybe they didn't think they were making something good. And in which case, what the hell were they expecting then? It's not like this was the first Home Alone sequel after the second movie. This is Home Alone 6, for Christ's sake. You'd think someone would have realized that maybe it's time to let this franchise rest. But no, now that Disney owns Fox, they just had to stick their own greasy fingers in Home Alone and ruin it even further. They've been doing a bang-up job making The Simpsons even worse than they already were, so I guess it's just common practice at this point. If you haven't figured it out yet, please just pass on watching Home Sweet Home Alone. It's an embarrassing and unpleasant rehash of a much better film. If you want to watch a good Home Alone sequel, just please watch the second movie. It's really the only one of these that's worth watching. Oh well, maybe No Way Home will be a better nostalgic retread of something we know and love. Then again, maybe not. Here's to Home Alone 7 being about Macaulay Culkin being fucked in the ass by Mickey Mouse for 2 hours.
Rudolph the red-nosed